Good evening to all of you. On behalf of the Republican Club of Laguna Woods and Act for America of Laguna Woods and Act for America Mission Viejo, welcome to this special event with Brigitte, Gabriele, founder and chairman of Act for America. Act for America's mission is to educate, to engage, to train, and to mobilize citizens and elected officials to impact legislative outcomes and ensure the safety and security of Americans against all threats, foreign and domestic, while preserving civil liberties guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Lester Canton, our chaplain, will now open our meeting with a word of prayer.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you are our God, and we love you, and we thank you from the beginning of time. You have always shown your people the direction you want them to go. Father, when you decided you were going to destroy the world, you told Noah to build an ark. Lord, when you were going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, you sent 2 angels down to tell Lot to leave, him and his family. Father, when the hearts of your people turned cold, you told them you were going to scatter them in the 4 corners of the world. But then, Lord, through Isaiah, Jeremiah, and the prophets, Ezekiel, you told that you were going to bring them back all together again, and they will become a great nation. And through that nation, they will be a mighty army. And that in the deserts, they will be planting fruit and vegetables, that unbelievable amount. And go to Israel today, and you'll see that, because you do not lie. Lord, as you were sitting on the Mount of Olives, your disciples came to you and said, Lord, when is the day it will be the end? And you told them, do not be deceived. No man knows the day or the hour. But Lord, there's the signs you told them to look for. There will be an increase of earthquakes. There'll be wars and rumors of wars. There'll be phantoms and throughout the world. And Father God, we look around today and we can see a lot of that happening. So Father, we come to tonight, and as we hear the message tonight, we ask you to open up our hearts and our ears to what you are telling the people today, because many of our hearts turn cold. Now, Lord, I ask you to bless each person that's in here, bless their families, their children, their grandchildren. And Father, I ask you to bless our young men and women in the armed forces that is willing to give their lives so that we can have the freedom to gather together in assembly. Now, Lord, I ask all this in your Son and our Lord Savior Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Lester. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our Master of Ceremonies for tonight, Don Dix. Don Dix is a longtime supporter and active member of Act for America. Don's leadership of Act for America Corona chapter earned him the recognition of the 2014 ACT National Conference in Washington, D.C. as the chapter leader of the year. He is the co-founder of Unite IE Coalition, a network of over 20 conservative groups throughout the Inland Empire. He has organized messages of conservative values and community activism. Don is the co-host of the Jen and Don Show on radio station AM 590. Don is a conservative political activist who recognizes that our nation, our Constitution, and our traditions are under full-scale attack from multiple threats, including the Muslim Brotherhood, and its affiliated organizations. Please welcome the warrior working daily to protect our country, our liberty, and our freedoms. Let's welcome Mr. Don Dix, our Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How wonderful is Carol and their organization to sponsor this event tonight? Let's give them a hand. We're going to continue with our opening ceremony, and I'm going to ask everybody to stand. But before everybody stands, I would like to ask if you have served in our nation's military or public safety or still do, would you please stand and be recognized, because you're the ones that ensure our freedom. Stay standing as best you can. If all of the rest of you would please rise, we're going to join together in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all stand, place your right hand over your left heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Thank you. You bet. Well, this is exciting. Yes, it is indeed true that I am a talk radio show host with Salem Radio Network, and I get to share the airwaves with people like Rush Limbaugh, Larry Elder, Dennis Prager, now Sebastian Gorka, out in the Inland Empire. It's truly an honor to be a part of that lineup. But it's also true that if it weren't for divine intervention and a lady by the name of Brigitte Gabriel, there's a good chance I probably wouldn't be behind that microphone today. You see, you never know what God can do if you step out in faith to his calling. You never know the magic and the miracles, magic in a faith-based sense, that God can work, as long as you're willing to answer that calling. It's amazing what can happen, and many are being called today. God is moving in this country in ways that many have never seen before. And I would submit to you that God is moving in this hall tonight because of all the places that you could have been tonight. The absolute best place for you to be in Southern California is right here and right now, especially if you join me in being concerned about America's future. And I think you do. Yes? Amen. So, without further ado, let me put on my Rick Perry glasses. You didn't know Rick Perry had a fashion line of glasses out now, did you? And introduce our speaker for tonight. She is an amazing force in America. She's one of the leading terrorism experts in the world, providing information and analysis on the rise of the global Islamic terror threat. She lectures nationally and internationally about terrorism and current affairs. Her expertise is sought around the world and in business circles alike. She's addressed the United Nations, the Prime Minister of Australia, members of the British Parliament, House of Commons, members of the United States Congress, top-ranked Pentagon officials, the Joint Chiefs of Staff College, the U.S. Special Operations Command, and the U.S. Asymmetric Warfare Group, the FBI, in addition to many, many others. Brigitte is a regular guest, an analyst on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, when they allow her, and various radio shows across America, such as ours. Ms. Gabriele is the founder and chairman of Act for America, the largest national security grassroots organization in the U.S., with over 1 million members nationwide dedicated to preserving national security and Western values. She is a celebrated author of 3 New York Times bestsellers, including her latest, Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. Ms. Gabriele, it was knighted in Europe in 2016 by the Knights of Malta for her international work fighting terrorism and standing up for Western Judeo-Christian values. She joins a long list of knights, including former Presidents Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Nelson Mandela, who wasn't a U.S. president, but I didn't need to tell you that. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, Henry Kissinger, and others. Ms. Gabriele is named one of the top 50 most prominent speakers in America. She also speaks Arabic, French, English, and Hebrew, none of which she will speak tonight, but she will be speaking English. Please welcome Brigitte Gabriele, founder of Act for America.
I experienced terrorism as a child when my house was bombed. I used to think terrorism was a regional problem confined to the Middle East. 9/11/2001 changed all that. It made me realize that terrorism has become a global problem. The national security issue is not a conservative issue, is not a Republican, a Democratic, or libertarian issue. It's an American issue because terrorism affects all our lives. I started Act for America because I wanted to empower citizens to become involved and passionate about the national security issue and to impact change for our government as well as for our country.
You know, America is more than just a country, it's an idea founded on these principles that need to be defended. Without national security, we can't preserve our Constitution, we can't preserve our freedoms for future generations.
Today, I'm proud to tell you that Act for America has 1 million members nationwide. Our members come from all backgrounds, all color, all faith. People who put their differences aside and came together for the safety and security of our nation.
Act for America has a huge presence up on Capitol Hill. Our 1 million members have educated legislators both on the Hill and in state legislatures all across the country about national security issues such as border security, energy independence, immigration reform. National security touches on so many different issues, and our members are active and engaged.
Boots on the ground, chapter meetings to rallies, to contacting elected officials, local and on the state capitol.
National security encompasses all issues. Border security, standing with our police, working with our first responders. We work on issues that will ensure that America remains safe and secure.
Act for America gives a step-by-step plan and instructions for how to achieve results. We empower our grassroots to lobby their legislators, to make phone calls, to write letters to the editors, to attend town halls. We give you what you need to make a difference in your community.
People can visit actforamerica.org and get involved. When everyone does a little, together we accomplish a lot.
All right, now that same enthusiasm, actually take it up a notch. Everybody stand up and give Brigitte Gabriele a huge Southern California welcome.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you know what? I think I will grab this thing and walk around. Is that okay?
All right.
All right, I love this. I am so excited to be here. You have no idea. I have to tell you, they say you save the best for last. And I started this trip 10 days ago, starting in New Hampshire. I was speaking up there in the Boston area. Then I went to Denver. Then I went up to Aspen, Snowmass, and then now in Orange County. And I was looking forward this whole week to get here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, people ask me all the time, Brigitte, don't you get depressed talking about terrorism, radical Islam, MS-13 gang, our border, illegal immigration, all that depressing stuff? Doesn't that get to you? And I tell them, of course I do get depressed sometimes. Who can't watching the news every day and watching what's happening in our nation? But what keeps me so energized, what keeps me so excited is when I travel our amazing, great country and I meet people like you who take the time out of their busy schedule to pack a place like this tonight, to be with me, to celebrate our country and our exceptionalism as Americans. You are truly the wind beneath my wings, and I thank you for being here tonight. You make me so proud and so happy. Well, anybody who's watching the news understands America is being transformed before our very eyes. The flag that once flew on every street corner in America is now considered a hate symbol on college campuses. Athletes who used to stand up with pride during the national anthem are now kneeling in protest. Patriotism is seen as hateful. Our police are being killed and targeted by thugs and criminals while the mainstream media victimizes their killers. Our country is changing before our very eyes. A freedom of speech is being eliminated by the tyranny of tolerance. Who would have thought we're going to get to this point in our nation? And this is going to be the topic of my presentation tonight, why we need to rise. As you can tell, I named my latest book, Rise. Rise in defense of Judeo-Christian values and freedom. Because we need to rise in defense of our values. Because America's values are made from our Judeo-Christian values. They are based, the Judeo-Christian values are the foundation of Western civilization. This is where we have our freedom of speech. Most people take it for granted that we actually have that. You know where that comes from? And I hate to use a cliche. You know in the Bible what it says, come, let's reason together. And this is exactly why we are taught from childhood to debate ideas, to exchange ideas. This is why in our country we can passionately disagree with each other, yet agree to disagree, because we know if somebody came to that conclusion, it is based on years of research or opinion. And any debate we go into, we are willing to learn a new thing and going into it with an open mind because we know I may learn a new thing. But unfortunately in our country today, this open debate is almost non-existent. Freedom of speech is being eliminated unless you are on the radical extreme left and you badmouth America and you say bad things about America, then you have freedom of speech to say whatever you want. But if you are a conservative, if you are a God-loving, flag-waving, veteran-respecting, America-loving Americans, then you are not allowed to speak and express yourself. And we have seen what Facebook and Twitter and social media is doing to conservatives. So, because I am so passionate about these issues, this is what turned me into an activist. And people ask me all the time, Brigitte, where does this passion come from? My gosh, you're so passionate, you're full of energy when you talk about these issues. And a lot of people do not know my background. My passion is forged through my childhood years and my background. And for those of you who do not know my background, other than just seeing me on Fox News talking about national security as a subject matter expert, a lot of you know me through that venue. But a lot of you do not know what shaped me as a person. So allow me to share with you a 5-minute background on myself so you can understand where this passion comes from. You see, I was born and raised in what used to be the only Christian majority country in the Middle East, Lebanon. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we were multicultural. We prided ourselves in our multiculturalism. Does this sound familiar so far? That's right. We had open borders. People brought their children from all over the Middle East and came to our country. We welcomed them because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Middle East. Muslims used to send their children to study in our universities because we had built the best universities in the Middle East. They graduated and worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East, even though Lebanon did not have any oil. Beirut became known as Paris of the Middle East, the banking capital of the Middle East. Unfortunately, all that began to change because when you take in people into your country who don't share your values and come into your country because you opened your border to them because you wanted to help them out, and they turn against you, they destroy you. And you know the theory about the frog. If you want to boil a frog, if you throw a frog in boiling water, the frog immediately jumps out. But if you put a frog in cold water and turn the fire, you can literally cook the frog because by the time the frog feels the burn, he is too weak to jump out. And if you look at Europe today, you see the frog is being boiled. And Europe is transforming. Lebanon is a republic. Exactly like the United States of America. Big contrast next to all the other Arabic countries around us where you can identify every country with one-man regime or one royal family. Their dictatorships, their theocracies, and we were a republic. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975 when radical Islamists blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble wounded. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months. And as I laid in a hospital bed, hooked up to IVs in both arms, going from one surgery to another, I would ask my parents, why did they do this to us? And my father would tell me, because we are Christians, the Muslims consider us infidels, and they want to kill us. So I learned since I was a 10-year-old little girl that I am wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith and lived in a Christian town. I ended up leaving the hospital and going back home. But my home was no longer the home I left. I ended up living underground in an 8x10 bomb shelter without electricity, without water, and very little food. And that's where I lived for the next 7 years of my life, from the age of 10 till the age of 17, robbed of my youth. To get some water, we would crawl out under snipers' bullets because we were surrounded by Islamic snipers. And we would crawl in a ditch to a nearby spring. And what used to be a 5-minute walk would take us hours crawling in a ditch because of the snipers. And every time before we left our bomb shelter to get water, we would say our last goodbyes because we did not know if we're going to come back alive or dead just to get a drink of water. To get some food, we would crawl out under the bombs and dig out dandelions and different greenery, different vegetation that grew around our bomb shelter because it was the only greenery we had to eat. And this became my existence. When the war started, my father would say, oh, we're going to wait because when people are going to hear, when Christian nations are going to hear the massacres that are happening in Lebanon, the Christian nations are going to come and they're going to save the Christians. America is going to come. Britain is going to come. France is going to come. Australia is going to come. Canada is going to come. And we waited and we waited and nobody came. And we knew that the world forgot about us. Meanwhile, the Palestinians that we have taken into the country, because Lebanon was the only country to accept the third wave of Palestinian refugees into Lebanon, because we were so open-minded and fair and tolerant. While their brethren didn't want to have anything to do with them, we took them in. Once they got into the country, they put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon and declared war on the Christians. And that's when they started the massacres. And when the Christians who were being massacred would tell them, hey, you can't kill us. We are your friends. We marched with you. We lobbied for you. And the Palestinians and the Muslims would look at them and say, well, you are just the useful idiots. You are Christians. You are no better than anybody else. And they began the massacres. But by the time those who fled and came to our town to tell the stories, it was too late. Their towns were wiped out. That was the thank you we got for taking people into our country. I remember 3 years into our ordeal in the bomb shelter, one of our friends stopped by, one of our Christian militia who were protecting us. And he said to me, Brigitte, we heard a lot of chatter on the radio tonight, and we believe we are going to be attacked. And he said, if I don't see you tomorrow, if we die, because I don't think we're going to last, I wish you a merciful death. And he left. And I remember sobbing, dressing in my Sunday best, my Easter dress, because I wanted to look pretty when I am dead, knowing that when they come to slaughter me, there would be no one to bury me. And I remember sobbing, begging my mother, I don't want to die, please, I don't want to die, do something. And my mother stood there combing my long black hair down to my hips, and there was nothing she could say to me. And we sat in the corner of our bomb shelter. And my father started praying. He started reading from the Bible. I shall walk into the valley of death and fear no evil, for thou art with me. And my parents said to me, when they come to slaughter us tonight, we will create a distraction. We want you to run towards the Israeli border and never look back. Just run towards Israel and don't look back. We lived a long life. You are a young child. You see, we knew if we go to the Jews and beg for help, the Jews were not going to slaughter us because we lived on the border with Israel. The Jews were not going to slaughter us because we had more shared values with them than we had with the Muslims. Thank God I did not have to make that decision that night, because that's the night when Israel came in physically into Lebanon and set up artillery bases around our town so we can survive. And this is how we kept on living for another 5 years in the bomb shelter, waiting to see how the world is going to wake up to protect us. Because we learned something very quickly in Lebanon. You can have all the education you want. You can have all the professional degrees on the wall in your office or in your home, your medical degree, your accounting degree, your law degree, whatever degree. None of that will do you any good when you are faced with an enemy filled of hatred, bent on killing you in the name of Allah. And that became our life. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon while working with the Christians in Lebanon, trying to help the Christians take back their country, restore their democracy, and kick out the radical Islamic element that had taken control of the country at that time. Because by that time, we had 11 Islamic terrorist organizations operating out of the country, including the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. The Lebanese War was not just a war between the Lebanese Muslims and the Lebanese Christians. It was a war by all the surrounding countries, by all the radicals from different nations who came to Lebanon, who snuck to Lebanon through our open borders to help the Palestinians create a base from which to fight the Jews, kill the Jews, and drive them into the sea. And they wanted to use Lebanese democracy, and they did. And they used our democracy to topple our democracy. Because by the time they toppled the democracy in Lebanon, it was too late for us to do anything about it. So Israel advanced into Lebanon, working with the Christians to try to kick out the radical Islamic element that had taken control of the country at that time. And they were able to do so, and that's when they kicked Yasser Arafat and his crony all the way to Tunisia. And that's how we came out of the bomb shelter and back to rebuilding our lives. I ended up moving to Israel in 1984. And becoming a news anchor for world news in the Middle East, covering world events and reading the news night after night. And I did that between 1984 and 1989. And that's when we started seeing a rise of global Islamic terrorism across the globe. And as I read the news night after night, I started realizing that there was a pattern developing, because no matter where the terrorist activity took place, the name of the perpetrators were always Islamic: Ahmed, Muhammad, Hussein, Ali. The name of the victims were always Westerners, Christians and Jews: Terry Waite, Terry Anderson, Colonel Higgins, the Achille Laura, the TWA flight, the Pan Am flight, and I can go on and on. As a matter of fact, in my first book, titled "Because They Hate,"
which is my life story and is also a New York Times bestseller. If you have never read my life story, what I just gave you is written in a New York Times bestseller. I encourage you to get it and read it. It's a must read. The name of the book is Because They Hate. I started realizing that what I used to think was a regional problem between a majority Muslim Middle East trying to either kill or expel the minority Christians and Jews had become a worldwide problem. But the world was not paying attention. The world was not connecting the dots. The world lacked imagination. And isn't this exactly what the 9/11 Commission report said to us? We lacked imagination. It's not like we did not know how much our enemy hates us or what they want to do to us. Usually people that hate you tell you exactly what they want to do to you. In our case with radical Islamists, and at that time with Al-Qaeda right after 9/11, they not only told us how much they hate us, they wrote news report about it, they issued articles about it, they issued press releases about it, they even mailed video press releases to Al Jazeera network to air worldwide to tell us how much they hated us, what they wanted to do to us, and how they were going to do it to us. And what did we do? Buried our head in the sand, pretending the problem did not exist. We knew exactly how much they hated us. Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Center the first time in 1993. Remember? President Clinton was in office. We had a Democrat. They attacked America the first time in 1993. They attacked the Kubar Towers in 1995. They attacked our embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1997. They attacked the USS Cole in 2000. And then they were so confident that we were so apathetic and so asleep that they came back and re-attacked the World Trade Center the second time in 2001. This time, they were able to bring the buildings down. The only difference between the two attacks of 1993 and 2001 is they were able to bring the buildings down. We lacked imagination. And we are seeing this pattern of lacking imagination in our country starting again and again and again. I ended up coming to America by marriage. I met an American war correspondent in Jerusalem while I was working as a news anchor. He was from Los Angeles. We got married, and I came to the United States in 1989. At that time, I was a mother. One of our children was already born in Jerusalem. So I came here as a mother. And I thought I left all the crazies behind. I'm here to start a new life. Oh, how our country has changed in 30 years. I came to America in April 29, 1989. I'll never forget that day. The day I landed in JFK and kissed the ground that I made it to the promised land. I couldn't believe I made it to America. April 29th, 1989. That day is etched in my memory forever. That day was the day I was reborn again in the United States as a human being, as an independent thinker, as an American, as a free person, because I knew I made it to the promised land. 9/11 was a defining moment to the United States. I worked, my husband and I, we were working, we had a TV production company, we had 2 children. I was living the American dream on 9/11. I worked 6 months out of the year as a television executive, enjoying all the perks of the entertainment industry, and the other 6 months I stayed home and I played with my children. 9/11 was a defining moment for me. 9/11 was a defining moment for America. It changed the way we think. It changed the way we travel. It changed the way we watch television. It changed the way we listen to the radio. We hear news. It changed our lives. We all did the same thing. We all watched the images of the World Trade Center tumble again and again and again. We felt angry. We felt helpless. We felt sad. We felt devastated. We felt frustrated. We could not believe that somebody could hate us so much that they were willing to fly to hijack airliners and fly them as human missiles into skyscrapers with the intent of killing tens of thousands of people. Remember, over 50,000 employees worked in the Trade Center. If they were 15 minutes late, remember, 8:45 was the attack. If the attack started after 9 a.m., 50,000 people would have been in those buildings. Our lives changed. That day, I was sitting at home watching the news. That day was a defining moment for me. I was watching the news like all of you. I was devastated, I was frustrated. And my 2 daughters came home from school. And my youngest daughter looked at me watching TV and she said, "Mommy, why did they do this to us?" And I looked at my daughter and I had to look into her eyes and repeat to her the exact same thing my father said to me. They hate us because they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. Here we were 2 generations apart. I was a young Lebanese girl, she's a young American girl. I spoke Arabic, she spoke English. 8,000 miles away, continents away, 30 years apart. I had to repeat to my daughter the exact same words my daddy said to me. They hate us because they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. That's the day I vowed that I will do everything I can to make sure that my daughter will never have to look into her child's eyes and repeat to him or to her what my daddy said to me and what I had to say to her. That day, I was reborn as an activist. That day, I realized I've got to do something for my country because my past is America's future unless America wakes up and understands who's coming into our country, why they're coming into our country, how long are they staying in our country, do they love our country, and what is their purpose in our country. I started Act for America because I wanted to educate millions of uninformed Americans about the threat of radical Islam to world peace and our national security. Because in 2001, the greatest threat to America was radical Islamic terrorism. Antifa did not exist. Black Lives Matter did not exist. MS-13 gang members were not roaming our streets the way they are roaming now. Today, Act for America went, and I started speaking at that time and growing and educating. And I realized one question kept popping up because no matter how big the group that I spoke to or where they were, I spoke from groups as small as 8 people, 10 people meeting at Frankie's Ribs in Pungo, Virginia at 7 a.m. in the morning. And I'm thinking to myself, who meets at 7 a.m. in the morning? The average age was 80. Every other word I said was, huh? Now you know why I speak loud. I spoke to groups as small as 8 people meeting at Frankie's Ribs in Pungo, Virginia, to groups as big as 10,000 in some of these mega churches across the country. And one question kept popping up. Now that I'm educated, what can I do? Give me something to do. And I learned really quickly that we can educate until the cows come home. Nothing is going to change. Education is important, but education by itself is not sufficient. Education must be coupled with action. We're not lacking education. You Google the word Antifa, you Google the word Islam, you Google the word socialism, and Google, and you'll get 60,000 pages. We're not lacking education. What we're lacking is what to do with the education so we can make a difference for the country. So that question kept popping up, and I realized that's when I needed to launch a lobbying grassroots mobilization machine that will network the country. And that's when I launched Act for America, the grassroots organization that works on lobbying, that works on passing bills, that works on organizing in our community. And this is exactly where we are today. I'm proud to tell you that Act for America right now has over 1 million members nationwide. We have helped pass 103 bills. Yes, thank you. A lot of hard years to get to this number. We have helped pass 103 bills on the federal level and the state level to protect America. Thank you. And all this effort would not be possible without the amazing efforts of our members, and especially our chapter leaders who mobilize their chapters to start calling their elected officials, to start showing up at City Hall meeting, to start passing legislation, who organized rallies. And I need our chapter leaders who are present here tonight to please stand up and be recognized. Our chapter leaders who are in the crowd, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. This is how you make things happen. This is how you make meetings like this happen. This is how it happens. And you know, as an immigrant, when I came to the United States, and I have earned a PhD in being opinionated about immigration as a legal immigrant, I can talk about immigration like many of you can't, because I have walked the process. I came to the United States. When I came here, I paid for my own airline ticket. I paid for my lawyers to do all my paperwork. I paid for my doctor's visit to take this blood work and that blood work. And I hate needles, but I had to be poked in every arm and be tested to make sure I'm not bringing leprosy into the country, tuberculosis into the country, and every other disease that they had to test me for. And I gladly paid for all of that, and I gladly went through it, because that's part of the privilege of earning the right to be an American citizen. And after I got my green card, I had to study a 2-inch thick book written by the Daughters of the American Revolution about America's history, America's heritage, our Constitution, our judicial system, etc. And I had to pass an exam, a written exam as well as a verbal exam in English about America's history, our Constitution, and pass before I became an American. I am the type of American we want to bring into this country. I am the type of legal immigrant you want to bring into this country. Thank you. And when I look at the squad running their mouth in Washington, D.C., complaining about America, saying all sorts of things about America, dividing America, I have never in my 30 years when I came to this country, and boy, you talk about how the country has changed in 30 years. Can you imagine if we enforce people right now to learn English, to speak English, to learn our Constitution, to learn our heritage, what a better country we will have because the group of immigrants who would come here. So for the squad of 4 in Washington, D.C., who are complaining and dividing our people and talking about color, in my 30 years in the United States, as a lady of color, and this is the first time I even used that language, as a lady with brown skin, I have never felt in 30 years that my skin color was even an issue. I never even saw color. I was never treated differently. I was never discriminated against. I was never looked down upon. I never even felt that I was any different. As a matter of fact, because I am a legal immigrant, I worked twice as hard to prove to my new country that I was worthy of the citizenship. I wanted to make money and pay my taxes to make America great and greater. Thank you. Legal immigrants like me with brown skin are offended, are insulted, are humiliated when we see the garbage language coming out of Washington, D.C., out of our Congress by people who are ungrateful for our nation, that we brought here as refugees or came here because their parents immigrated here, yet they are ungrateful for our country. This is not the type of leaders we need in Washington, D.C. They are an embarrassment and an insult to legal immigrants like me. What happened to our country? We used to come here, millions of people for the last 300 years came to this country. Some came on the Mayflower, like your grandparents and great-grandparents and your ancestors, and some people came as a first generation on the TWA like I did. Can you imagine? Boy, people don't even know what the TWA is right now. I'm showing my age. But people came to this country wanting to be Americans, wanting to be a part of the American fabric, wanting to be a part of the American experience. Americans came here. They made sure their children spoke English. Immigrant families where the parents didn't even know English very well, they made sure the kids at home spoke English, and they spoke broken English with their children because they wanted to make sure they teach their children that you are Americans first. And now your loyalty is to this country and to nothing else. You be a part of it. You make it great. You make us proud. You contribute to the American dream. Those are the American immigrants that used to come here. Very different than what we have today. So legal immigrants like me, when we sit and watch the news and we hear the disgraceful language coming from the left, feel insulted, feel embarrassed, and feel energized to become activists and to rally every legal immigrant who came to this country, who loves this country as much as we do, to stand up and fight for her. Because right now you're looking at two Americas. They are the America that loves God, that loves our country, that honors our national anthem, that respects our veterans, that appreciates the service of our military personnel, that appreciates our police officers, that believe in America's exceptionalism, that believe America is the greatest nation on the face of the planet. There are those of us sitting in this room, and that's what we believe, right? Absolutely. And there are those on the other side who loathe America, who are embarrassed of America, who don't appreciate America, who can think of every single ill of America. You know, America is not perfect. Just like us people, we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. We all have our shortcoming. But you know what? Last time I checked, America was the greatest nation on the face of the planet, to the point that people that hate us are still trying to get into our country. So for those who don't like America, for those who complain about America, for those who are ungrateful to America, for those who loathe America, apologize for America, are embarrassed of America, we'll give you a one-way ticket to get the hell out of here and back to whatever country you came from. Woo! I'm talking to the right people. USA! 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 Woo! This is the spirit of America. You know what makes America so different than any other nation in the world is America is a spirit. America is not a geographical location. America is an attitude. America is a spirit. America is the ethics that burns in our heart for our love for this country. That's why America became exceptional. You can take all of us Americans and take us with our ideals and our Constitution and put us in any country in the world, and we will make it into America, because it is our Constitution, it is our spirit, it is our American values that makes America exceptional. It is our spirit, it's our attitude that makes it exceptional. This is why, this is the type of fervor, this is the type of excitement, this is the type of passion we need to have for our country, because I can tell you, the left has that passion. We need to get that passion. And when I look at the division in our country today, and I see the squad of four on Capitol Hill complaining and talking about skin color, and we are African Americans, and we are Italian Americans, and all the people complaining about identities, and we are Vietnamese American and Mexican American and whatever American, this is baloney. We are nothing but Americans. All of us, Americans. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is our America, and this is what we are fighting for. And while I'm at it, I believe English is the official language of the United States and shall remain so. And we need to take political correctness and throw it in the garbage. I don't care about offending anybody. You know what? Those who want to get offended. You come to America, you better learn our language. How can somebody be in this country for 25 years and still cannot speak English? What's your excuse? How are you going to advance in our country if you cannot speak our language? Whatever that happens to when in Rome, do what the Romans do. What we have right now is people that we are taking into our country, bringing into our country, who do not want to do what the Romans do in Rome, but they want to transform our country to fit whatever hellholes they left. They're bringing their traditions, their customs here into the United States. Is this what we really want in our country? We don't want that in our country. We deserve better as a nation. We deserve better as people. We want to bring people into our country, but we want them to come here legally. Because when you become legally, when you work so hard to earn something, you value it, you appreciate it. It's your treasure. You preserve it, you fight for it, you are proud of it. And when you come here legally and you do it by the book and you work hard and you study and for 10 years you pinch pennies, you pay lawyers, you go to court, you stand in front of the federal judge, you take the exams. By the time you graduate to become an American, by the time you lift your right hand and you say, I pledge allegiance into the United States of America, forsaking all other nations for her. By the time you get to that point, you should be on fire for your new country. So this is why Act for America is exploding. This is why Act for America is growing, because we named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not wish for America, not hope for America, not pray for America. You can do all that, and you should, because we need to pray for our country. We need to hope for our country. We need to wish for our country. But without taking action, nothing happens. Nothing. Without action, nothing happens. It's not about attending meeting and listening to a speaker. And I can tell you the difference between us and the left. On the right-hand side, and I'm sure a lot of you belong to different organizations. You show up to meetings. You hear the great speakers that they bring. You know, once a month, whatever, the first Tuesday of every month or last Thursday of every month or whatever it is, everybody shows up. Everybody attends the speaker. Everybody at the end of the meeting pats themselves on the back and thinks, wow, we did a great meeting this month. Who are we going to bring next month? And then everybody goes home and nothing gets done. We get together and listen to speakers. Have you noticed that the Democratic Party doesn't have meetings and brings speakers? Have you noticed that? They're not about bringing speakers. They are about activism. You know, on our side, our people are informed. I'm sure I can pick any of you in the audience and ask you a question about our current affairs or about something about our Constitution. Any one of you will know exactly the answer. We, on our side, are not lacking information. We listen to talk radio, we listen to the news, we read stories on the internet, we read newspapers. Boy, by golly, are we informed. But we don't do anything other than attend meetings. On the left, on the other hand, you can stop and ask any 22-year-old nitwit about socialism. They can't even answer you. They don't know what socialism is. They're just demonstrating for demonstration's sake. They show up, they block bridges, they scream and yell. And how about Antifa showing up with brass knuckles attacking people? How can this be acceptable in our country? How did we get to that point in our country? We got to that point because while we were following the law, obeying the law, going to our churches, following our news, listening to the news, working hard, providing for our families, the left was organized, teaching the children to hate America, to Lewinsky rules, you know, bring America down, brainwashing the children that America is a country based on white supremacism and genocide of minorities. This is what they're teaching in public school. Not to mention now the indoctrination about Islam in public school, which, by the way, started all in California in 1991. The first Islam course introduced in California. So not only they are brainwashing our students via the education, they are brainwashing our students via everything they see on social media. Most young kids today, they don't get the news from regular news channels. They get it from Comedy Central. That's where they get the news. But they are organized. So what we need to do is not just show up to meetings, but organize. So I'm here today not only to share with you problems, but also to provide you with solutions. How many of you want to be a part of the solution? Raise your hand. All right. All right. I'm talking to the right people. So here's what we're going to do today. We want you to sign up to be an activist with Act for America. Very easy, doesn't cost you a dime. We want you to go to our website, actforamerica.org, and sign up as an activist. We send you, to give you an example, we give you tips once a week. 3 things you can do under 10 minutes, and you can do them sipping your cup of coffee in the morning in your pajamas in front of your computer with the click of a button. We're not asking you to go demonstrate. We're asking you to take action, putting pressure on elected officials that makes a difference for the country. Just like the bills that we have helped pass that I told you about. It's all about activism. As a matter of fact, we are so good that by the time you get home tonight, you're going to find an email in your inbox sent from our organization asking you to become an activist so we can contact you when there is a bill coming down for a vote so you can make your voice heard with your elected official before the bill is voted on. How many of you would like to be a part of that solution? Activism and organization. Activism and organization, that's where it's at. The time to get together and hear a speaker and show up to a meeting is over. We are educated. You can do that for the social hour. You can do that to make few friends because this is our support group. We all need to get together once a month because God knows sometimes you think to yourself, am I the only sane person in this world? You watch the news and you think that they're losing their minds. So we need to get together and support each other as a support group and be empowered and be energized. But you also need to get together and strategize about how to make a difference in your community, not just listen to a speaker. So we want you to sign up to be an activist with Act for America. Go to actforamerica.org. You have an email from us tonight. We want you to sign up and do that and get involved. If you want to form your own, if you want to join one of our chapters, contact one of our chapter leaders at the end. We will connect you to join a chapter. If you want to start a group in your own home, if you are a part of a church, if you are a part of a Republican club, if you are a part of any organization, Tea Party group, whatever, and you want to start an Act for America chapter or a group within your organization so you can focus on national security and protecting the country, we want you to do that as well. So make sure you join us as an activist. The next thing we need you to do, what does an organization need other than activists? Money. I'm talking to the right people. See, I used to be shy, but somehow along the way for the last 16, 17 years doing this, I lost my shyness. We need your financial support because we are facing the left who is funded by Soros. Thank you. Not only Soros, but the Hollywood elite, the leftist elites who have millions of dollars. I remember the SPLC raising like $5 million in one weekend. $1 million from George Clooney and Amal Clooney, $1 million from JP Morgan, $1 million from whatever that casino in Las Vegas, MGM Grand. I mean, before you know it, they had raised $5 million in one weekend. We struggle all year long to raise a $2 million budget, and we have a full-time lobbyist, director of government relations on Capitol Hill. We have chapters nationwide. We have activists nationwide. Right now, Act for America is managing 80,000 activists nationwide. 80,000! So when you came in tonight, you found this paper on your seats. I encourage you to take a minute and fill this paper to become an activist and stand with us financially. And before you start filling this paper, I want to share a story with you. When I started Act for America, before I started Act for America, as an American, when I would watch the news and watch telethons about Jerry's Kids or whatever telethon they were running on the air, I would just take out my wallet and I would donate the whatever, $10, $20, $50, whatever I could afford, depending on how my business was doing while I was raising 2 young children. And nobody ever had to ask me for anything. I just gave. And when I started Act for America, I thought, boy, everybody who cares about the country is just going to take out their wallet and support this organization. I was wrong. So between 2002 and 2004, this is right after 9/11, and as a television production company, entertainment company, we basically, our business came to a shrieking halt because companies were barely making payroll, let alone produce commercials and air fluff on television. Our business came to a shrieking halt. We had to cancel our health insurance for a family of 4 so we can put gas in my car so I can travel all over the state of Virginia giving presentations. We got our health insurance back in 2004. I spent my children's college fund. My 2 daughters ended up going to community college for the first 2 years and then transferring to their universities in state because I had spent their college fund building the organization. Until I learned how to ask people, patriots like you, for support. So tonight, I'm not asking you to cancel your health insurance. I'm not asking you to spend your kids' college fund. Our philosophy in Act for America is when everyone does a little, together we accomplish a lot. So tonight, on this paper that's on your chair, it says, "A safer America starts with you." America has no one but us to depend upon. America cannot depend on Soros. America cannot depend on Hollywood. And we don't have big billionaires on our side pouring money down our throats the way the leftists have. But what we have, America has us. So every single one of us can contribute something little that can make a difference for the country. So on this sheet, you can become a monthly Patriot partner at whatever level you choose, or you can make a one-time donation. I would be so grateful if you become a monthly Patriot partner with us, and here is why. Because we can plan and budget on how many extra staff to add, how many extra lobbyists to add, how many presentations like this we can do nationwide. You know, when we came here to do this presentation, this is our investment in your community. We don't charge an entry fee. Nobody here paid for our airline tickets. We paid for our own airline tickets, our hotels, our rental cars. I don't get paid an honorarium. We have 3 executives here that flew across country to be with you. This is our investment in your community. And we hope and pray that your support tonight will enable us not only to cover our expenses, but be able to continue doing presentations just like this nationwide. On August 1st, I'll be speaking in Chicago. I traveled from city to city, 200 days a year doing exactly this, and we need your support. So I'm going to take 2 minutes while I give you an opportunity to fill in this sheet of paper that's left on your seat. And when you are done, please raise your hand, and our ushers in the middle will pick it up from you. So I'm going to take only 2 minutes, and I ask you to kindly, please, please, take the time to stand with us financially at whatever level you can. And if you can become a monthly supporter at $10, $20, $30 a month, $500 a month, believe it or not, we have people that do that. Please do so. If you need a pen, raise your hand. Borrow a pen from your neighbor, cut your finger, write it with blood. I don't care as long as you write it. No, seriously. Turn up the lights, please. Can we have the lights up? Great, thank you. Anybody that needs a pen, raise your hand. Anybody that needs a pen, raise your hand. America has us. And our organization has you. And together, we are taking our country by storm. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Don't be shy. Raise your hand. I appreciate your support. I'm going to take 1 more minute. Thank you so much. We need you involved. We need you active. We need to fight the left. And we're going to fight the left, and we're going to deliver a victory for our next president for the next 4 years. After that, too, he's in office. It takes grassroots organization on a massive scale nationwide, on a network linked nationwide. By the way, did you know, how many of you have heard of Indivisible? Raise your hand. Indivisible. Okay, Indivisible is the leftist grassroots arm. They have 6,000 groups nationwide. 6,000. This is what we are up against. Indivisible. This is exactly why Ted Cruz was fighting for his political life in Dallas, in Texas. Who would have thought that in Texas, Ted Cruz will be fighting for his political career? Because the leftist grassroots arm is very, very organized. When you are done with this paper, please raise it up so our ushers can pick it up from you. Anybody who is done, please raise it up so our ushers can pick it up from you. I want you to know that while we are organizing, on the left side, they have 85 grassroots organizations organizing right now. 85. This is what we are up against, and this is why we need your help. 85 grassroots organizations on the left. That's why we need you to give, and we want you to give generously. And for those of you who are able to add few zeros at the end of their check, please do so. I'll be more than delighted to speak with you at the end. You know, people laugh. I said this when I was speaking in Aurora, Colorado one time. And wouldn't you know it, in the audience was Mr. Coors from Coors Beers. That's right. And he walks up to me with a $5,000 check. And he had just walked into the presentation because a friend dragged him in while they met him buying ice cream. True story. He has been a supporter of our organization for the since 2010, 9 years. So if you are able and have a foundation to write few zeros next to your check, by all means, don't let me stop you. When you're done, please raise your hand. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your support. And tonight is a very special night for me. A really emotional night for me. And here is why. Because for the first time, ever since I started doing this, you know how I always talked about my daughter and about my grandchildren, and we do this for our grandchildren. Well, tonight is the first night I have the privilege of having my daughter and my granddaughter with me here tonight. Lila, could you come on stage? Could you bring me my come to Teta. You want to come to Teta? I'm Teta. So I want you to meet, come on up. Tonight, I want you to meet my daughter and my granddaughter. The people that I work so hard for. Come on in. My daughter, Jessica, and my granddaughter, Lila Catherine. Lila, can you say hi? Can you say hi? Your teta's so proud of you.
I'm so shy.
She is so... Can you believe I have this blonde grandbaby? My son-in-law, the Irish, did very well. He delivered. This is why I work so hard for, and this is why I am so grateful for you, our supporters, to enable me to devote my life, my energy. Here, can you keep Lila with me? Can you keep Lila with me? This is my next generation. Come on. You want to be with Teta? Can you stand down? Because Teta has to talk on the microphone. Can you hold Teta's hand? Okay, we're going to stand here in front of the light so everybody can see you. So tonight, as I fight for my granddaughter and grandchildren to come, as well as yours, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to devote my full time, 16 hours a day, working for you and on your behalf for our country, lobbying, meeting with our elected officials, working with our president, working with the White House, working with the administration on the highest level to secure our border, to reform our immigration, to vet who's coming into the country. And I cannot end my presentation without recognizing our military personnel and our veterans who are in the crowd. Please stand up and be recognized. And remain standing after the applause. Can you clap, Lila? Can you clap? Can you clap? Here. And please remain standing after the applause. I have a message for you. Please remain standing. They're so humble. They sit down immediately. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for building a nation for me where I can come and be all I can be as a citizen. I want to thank you for my freedoms because I know that my freedoms are built upon your shoulders and your sacrifice. I thank you for my freedom of speech. I thank you for my freedom of religion. I thank you for my freedom of expression. I know that my freedoms are built upon your shoulders and your sacrifice. You are not only my heroes, you are the heroes of millions of Americans who are unable to stand here before you tonight and thank you. On their behalf, I thank you. I thank you on behalf of millions of people who are still living under tyranny, who are unable to be in front of you to thank you for spreading freedom and justice around the world. On their behalf, I thank you. I thank you for every sleepless night you spent away from home, for every meal you missed, for every holiday you missed, serving our country so we can enjoy being with our families, celebrating the good life, the American life that you provide us, that you enable us to live. And I vow to you that I am building an organization with Act for America that will always honor you, that will always praise you, that will always think of your sacrifice, that will make it a point to teach our new generation of brats just where their freedom comes from. May God bless you one and all, and may God bless the United States for America. Thank you for being here tonight. It's been an honor. God bless you. Good night. Thank you so much. Say bye, Lila. Thank you so much. May God bless you. Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. Thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
wanna go to
Brigitte.
Mommy?
Carol Blanchard, who sponsored tonight, would like to present you with a small token of our appreciation here in Southern California.
Oh, thank
We
you
love
so
you.
much.
We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for all your work. And I thank the volunteers,
Ladies and gentlemen,
the leaders,
Brigitte Gabriele.
everybody. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Those of you that have still awaiting the opportunity to purchase books, the book sale table here will reopen shortly. If you've bought a book or you want to meet Brigitte off to the area where the book signings are occurring, we'd ask you to exit out the left side of the auditorium. Those of you that just want to exit out to your cars, please exit out the right side. That way we can maintain a little bit of crowd control. The book sales table inside the auditorium has reopened. And those of you that have books that are looking to get your book signed, we'd ask you to follow the folks out of the left-hand side of the auditorium. And if you're exiting out to your car, please use the right-hand side. Thank you all for being here tonight. On behalf of the Laguna Woods Republican Club, we appreciate you being here. Have a safe evening.